If you have ever closed your laptop at night and felt like your body had been quietly drained of something essential, this episode is for you. Because what if the exhaustion you feel is not weakness, not laziness, but a warning your body has been whispering for years? And the most surprising part of this story is waiting for you at the very end. I have spent years working with women across countries, cultures, and industries, helping them rebuild confidence, autonomy, and inner strength. And yet, in recent years, I started noticing something unsettling. More and more women were telling me the same thing. They were safe, they were healthy, their lives looked stable from the outside, and still at the end of the day, they felt empty. Not sad, not depressed, just flat, drained. During the pandemic, this feeling intensified. I would shut my laptop and feel like all I could do was collapse onto the couch and scroll. Phone in one hand, show in the background, mind half awake. And I kept asking myself, where did my energy go? Please, if this question resonates with you, take a moment right now and like this episode, subscribe to this channel, and stay with me until the end, because the most powerful insight, the one that changed how I live my days, comes later. For years, my professional life has revolved around understanding how modern habits shape us. We talk endlessly about mental health, about anxiety, burnout, attention spans, but almost no one talks about what screens are doing to our bodies. And that is where the real shock begins, because screens have not just changed how we think, they have changed how we move, how we breathe, how our blood flows, how our muscles behave. They are quietly reshaping our biology. Researchers found something chilling. The average 19-year-old today moves about as much as the average 60-year-old did a generation ago. Let that sink in. Over the past 2 decades, cases of type 2 diabetes among young people have doubled. 3 out of 4 adults in the United States live with at least one chronic illness, many of them preventable. And this is not a local issue. The World Health Organization calls it a global crisis. By the end of this decade, this lifestyle is expected to lead to hundreds of millions of new cases of heart disease, obesity, and diabetes, placing an enormous burden on governments and healthcare systems worldwide. Typing, swiping, scrolling, sitting. This is the rhythm of modern life, and no, most of us cannot simply throw our phones away or disappear into the woods. So the real question becomes, how do we stay connected without slowly dismantling our health? This question led me to a physiologist who has spent his career studying something deceptively simple: how little movement is enough to keep us alive and well in a world built for sitting. His research challenged everything I thought I knew about exercise. And when I heard his findings, I realized we had all been asking the wrong question. We tend to ask, did you work out today? But the better question is, how long did you sit without moving? Please stay with me, because what happens next completely reframes productivity, discipline, and even self-care. What I learned next was both comforting and deeply unsettling. Comforting because the solution was far simpler than I imagined. Unsettling because it revealed just how misaligned our daily routines have become with our biology. In one study, researchers discovered that just 5 minutes of gentle movement every 30 minutes produced dramatic results. Blood sugar levels dropped sharply, blood pressure improved. In another study, people who replaced just 30 minutes of sitting with 30 minutes of light movement each day reduced their risk of early loss of life by nearly 20%. Not marathon running, not extreme workouts, gentle, regular movement. At this point, many people think, I go to the gym, I have a standing desk, I am covered. I wish that were true, but the data is unforgiving. If you sit or stand in one position for most of your waking hours, your health is still at risk. Exercise is not a shield against long, uninterrupted periods of stillness. What matters is interruption, breaking up sedentary time. I remember asking, almost defensively, how much difference can this really make for someone who is relatively healthy? So I volunteered to experience it myself. One day, I sat at a desk for 8 hours straight, working as I normally would. The next day, I took movement breaks every 30 minutes. Nothing dramatic. Walking, gentle movement, stretching. The results were astonishing. My blood sugar was nearly cut in half, my blood pressure dropped, and perhaps most telling of all, my mood improved significantly. I felt lighter, clearer, more patient. But here is where things get real, because laboratory results mean nothing if real people cannot apply them in real life. It is one thing to be guided by a researcher tapping you on the shoulder. It is another thing entirely to remember to move in the middle of meetings, deadlines, children, and responsibilities. So a large-scale experiment was launched in the real world. Tens of thousands of people signed up. They chose their rhythm, 5 minutes every 30 minutes, or every hour, or even every 2 hours. The rule was simple. Break up long periods of sitting in any way that felt possible. Walk the dog, pace during calls, dance in the kitchen, take out the trash. It did not matter how, only that you interrupted stillness. The first days were hard, and this is important. Change is not comfortable. It requires intention and, frankly, a bit of rebellion. Our world is designed around chairs and screens, but something remarkable happened when people persisted. They reported less pain, more energy, improved mood, a greater sense of control over their lives. 80% of participants stuck with these breaks for at least 2 weeks. Productivity did not drop. In fact, many reported improved focus and better quality work. And here is a detail I love. Those who went outside experienced an even greater benefit. Before we go on, pause with me for a moment. Ask yourself, when was the last time you stood up simply because your body asked you to? Not because a notification buzzed, not because a meeting ended, just because you listened. Stay with me, because now we reach the biological why, and this is where everything clicks. To understand why these tiny movement breaks matter so much, we have to look inside the body. When we sit, especially for long periods, our arteries bend sharply at the hips and knees, almost like a kinked hose. Blood begins to pool in the legs, muscles stop contracting, and this is not a small issue because leg muscles act like pumps. They help regulate blood sugar, clear fats from the bloodstream, and maintain healthy blood pressure. When they stay inactive for too long, these systems begin to fail quietly, gradually, over months and years. Then there is breathing. Sitting compresses the diaphragm. Breaths become shallow. Shallow breathing means less oxygen traveling through the blood to the brain. Less oxygen means fatigue, brain fog, irritability, and poor focus. If you feel tired after hours at your desk, it may not be because the work is hard. It may be because your brain is being slowly deprived of oxygen. And this brings us to something screens interfere with in a more subtle way: interoception. This is the body's ability to sense its own needs: hunger, thirst, the need to move, the need to rest. Screens hijack attention so effectively that we stop hearing these internal signals. The body asks for a break, and the mind responds by scrolling past the discomfort, anxiety, exhaustion, tension, all ignored in favor of one more swipe. Over time, this disconnect leads to burnout and chronic illness, not because we are weak, but because we are out of sync with ourselves. So how do we begin to change this without overhauling our entire lives? The answer is surprisingly practical. Identify the most sedentary parts of your day, then create a simple rule, a personal mantra. If you are a student, you might decide to walk an extra lap before class instead of checking social media, giving your brain oxygen before learning. If you work from home, you might march in place during long video calls to stabilize blood sugar and avoid the post-meeting crash. If you are a parent, you might take one lap around the field before pickup to gather enough energy for the chaos of dinner time. Movement does not need to be heroic, it needs to be consistent. And now, let me tell you about the moment that truly changed how I see all of this. One of the participants in the study was a woman in her early 40s, working in human resources. She had been diagnosed with type 2 diabetes and lived with multiple health issues. She followed medical advice diligently. She walked briskly every morning. She did what she was told, and still her numbers barely changed. With her doctor's approval, she joined the movement break experiment. She began inserting gentle movement between meetings, not replacing her walks, simply adding interruption to sitting. Within weeks, her blood pressure dropped dramatically, her cholesterol improved, her insulin requirements decreased. Eventually, she no longer needed medication at all. This was not a miracle. It was physiology responding to being treated properly. Stories like this force us to confront a hard truth. Health is not only about what we do for 1 hour at the gym, it is about how we live the other 15 waking hours of the day. We know excessive screen time affects mental health, but now we see that it reshapes the body itself. Muscles, metabolism, circulation, posture, breathing, attention, all influenced by stillness. And here is where the responsibility expands beyond individuals, schools, workplaces, cities. We need environments that allow movement without shame, that normalize standing, pacing, stretching, that stop equating stillness with professionalism. But change does not start with policy, it starts with permission. Permission to move, permission to listen to the body, permission to look a little strange in a world that forgot how to move. If someone asks why you are pacing during a call, tell them you are protecting your health. Invite them to join you. Make movement social again. Start small, start today, start imperfectly. And now, before we finish, I want to ask you something. Are you willing to try it right now? Stand up, take a breath, feel your weight shift, feel the floor, feel your body re enter the moment. You are alive, your body is speaking, and it deserves to be heard. If this message resonated with you, please like this episode, subscribe, and share it with someone who needs permission to move. Stay curious, stay kind to your body, and remember the most powerful changes are often the smallest ones, repeated gently every day.